there's a lot of conversation around like how is AI going to change everything, you know,
Yeah.
and how will it, you know, a lot of big proclamations, and there's not a lot of just like how are you actually using it? How are people actually using it in
Yeah.
creative, interesting ways? And so we wanted to talk to people about that, you know, to talk to people about how it's changed their creative life, their work, and how they see it changing in the future, and both from a kind of like philosophical level, but also like a like how do you actually literally use it? And so I figured to start with you. I mean, I read your essay, your coffee essay, coffee cup essay about, you know, AI, which was in 2023, which feels like an
Yeah.
eternity ago AI wise,
Yeah.
you
Yeah, it
know.
does.
And so I'm curious, how have has your thinking about all of this changed since then?
My main point in that piece was just like AI is just another tool, like, and creatives have always had many different tools at their disposal, and the foundation of making stuff and then hopefully having it land with an audience is like is taste. And um I think AI has maybe gotten better at the taste and discernment part of things, but it's still just like an impossible question to answer. Like, I mean, I'm sure you've had the experience, as every creator has, of like making something that you think is the greatest thing you've ever done, and you put it out there, and it's crickets. And
Mm-hmm.
then conversely, something you're on the fence about, you're not exactly sure if it's gonna resonate with people. You know, it's like I feel really passionate about this topic, but I just don't know how it's gonna do with an audience, and then that thing goes crazy. So it's just like an impossible thing to unlock with any certainty.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the tools can help you in certain aspects of the creative process, but at the end of the day, it's always kind of a little bit of a gamble of like, is this thing that I made gonna resonate with an audience? I just can't see how that would, because that, as fast as AI moves, it's like people's tastes and what's popular and what's trending, like those things are moving all the time as well. So it's like,
When you say you think it's gotten better at taste, how does that, what makes you feel that?
well, I think in that piece, I like had the example of asking it for some quotes, and
Yeah,
it just
Marcus
gave me like,
Aurelius, right?
yeah, because
Yeah.
that's like a case that I would use it on a daily basis because of my work with Ryan and like the daily Stoic stuff.
Right.
I'm constantly engaging with meditations by Marcus Aurelius, and
Right.
he's, he might, there's a chance I have an email in my inbox right now. It's like, hey, what's that quote about this that
Mm-hmm.
Ryan's trying to track down? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and at the time when I wrote that piece in 2023, like the quotes were not only not exactly in the realm of like this topic I was looking for, but they were just made up quotes. Um,
Yeah.
and now it's like the quotes are more legitimate, but it's still not always exactly in the ballpark of what we're looking for. Or like, yeah, this quote that you're looking for is book 7 passage 4, and then I go to book 7 passage 4, and that's not that quote. And so it's
Yeah.
there's still um there's still some, I feel like I'm still, my experience with it is still like I have to verify, it's like a trust but verify thing. And
Yeah.
I would love for it to get to a place where it's like, what's this fragment of a quote, where in meditations is it, and it to be able to just tell me exactly where it is, and I can just pull up my copy and find it quickly. But there's still a little bit of digging that needs to be done, and yeah, verifying like, is this quote actually in that book?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and it's actually one of my frustrations as a reader of, um, I feel, because my instinct as a researcher that has been cultivated through my experience with Ryan, who's like the amount of work he goes into verify quotes, and like if he's telling a story and he wants to use this line, like let's not only make sure it's in one book, but like let's verify
Mm.
that it exists in, you know, many different places to make sure this is a legitimate quote. And I feel like I'm seeing a little bit of a loosey goosiness in like, as Mark Twain said, and then I'll be
Mhm.
like, let me see where he said this. And, you know, it's usually not
Yeah.
something Mark Twain actually said. And I think it's just a that's happening because people are like, hey, I'm writing about this topic. Can you give me some quotes from credible people to legitimize it? And it's like, yeah, here's 20 quotes on overcoming adversity. And like, oh, that's one by Mark Twain's pretty good. I'll use that.
Mhm.
But there's,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I remember the first time that that happened, and it like to me where I was writing some random thing, and I wanted movie quotes to back up, not even back up, but just to like say something in a funny way, you
Yeah.
know, and it like gave me the perfect quote from like The Sandlot, and I was like, "Fuck yeah, this is awesome." And then I looked it up and I was like, "Wait, that was not said." And it
Yeah.
like totally collapsed my trust for the thing. I was just
Yeah.
like, "Wait, I didn't know that that could happen." And I feel so it was a real like rude awakening of like, "Oh, this is it has no idea. It's just like it's not that it's lying, it just doesn't know that truth is a thing even." You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Right.
Like um yeah. It was weird.
Yeah. And just the certainty with which it gives you those quotes.
Yes. It's always certain.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I'd love to hear a little bit about just like I'm fascinated by like your process as like a researcher, you know, and like because I know you have the I read about your note card system, which is analog. I don't know if
Yeah.
you still do that, but like
Yep.
what is your research process and how like if an AI could do whatever you needed it to, how would it be helpful? Like what would you want it to be doing?
Well, so the process and in the note card system is, um, Ryan learned it from Robert Greene,
Mm,
and then I learned it from Ryan. And I've kind of adopted it, but then also adapted it in ways that just make more sense for like how my brain works. So if I were to pick up one of Ryan's note cards, he uses like kind of shorthand phrasing and language that makes sense to him. But if I picked up one of his cards, I wouldn't have the context for what this is.
right.
Um, so when I was first seeing like his system and some of the cards in his system, I started to implement it that way. And I just
Mhm.
found that when I would go back through my cards when I was trying to piece things together for an article or a newsletter or whatever, I would just be like, I don't know what I was wanting to
Mhm.
remember about this.
Mhm.
So I found for me, I need to kind of surround, if it's a quote or an anecdote, I need to surround it with context so that if I come back to this card in 2 months,
Mhm.
and let's say it's from a biography about Dr. Seuss,
Mhm.
um, I'm keeping in mind when I'm making it that I'm going to remember very little about this Dr. Seuss book.
Mhm.
Um, and so if my cards are more like, um, there's the Zettelkasten system,
Mhm.
Nicholas
Mhm.
Luhmann, I'm sure you're familiar with.
Mhm.
He talked about making notes for an ignorant stranger,
Mm.
because that's what you are when you come back to your notes. Like
Mm.
you think you're going to remember way more than you actually do. So I
Totally.
make cards for an ignorant stranger. So it's like you should be able to pick up any one of them and get something interesting or useful out of it. So it looks more like it might appear in an article. So it's not
Got
just
it.
like a floating quote. It's like a sentence leading into that quote with like a sentence kind of tying it up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's just how I found like it works better for me. And the cards themselves are just like I'm constantly reading and listening and watching things. And if it, I do all my reading with physical books, and so I just have a pen in hand and dog earing pages and making notes in the margins. And then once I finish a book, I put it aside for a little bit and then go back through with note cards and anything that kind of holds up as interesting or potentially useful. Because a lot of times it's like I found that on an initial read, I'm I might mark 100 pages in a 300-page book,
Mm-hmm.
and when I go back through it 2 weeks after I finish reading it, the number of things that remained interesting are a fraction of that. So it's like on the
Right.
initial read, I'm like attracted to the kind of the novelty of,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I hadn't
Mm-hmm.
heard it put this way before. I This quote seems interesting, so I like putting it aside for a little bit to kind of like let time filter out some things.
Yeah.
Um, and then when I'm going back through for the second time, it's just kind of a test of like, do I want to take the time and effort to transfer this onto a note card? And if I can't muster that willpower, then I'm
Right.
like,
Right.
it must not be as interesting as I'm wanting it to be. And so I make the cards and then I put them. I have various boxes now at this point, and there's just it's like this reminds me of this other story, and I know where that card is in the box, so I just put it in that section. And then when a section piles up to like 8 or 12 cards, that's kind of my signal that there's something here. I've got a lot of
Mm.
material on this topic. Let me see if I can piece these together.
Cool.
Um, and so the way that AI comes into that process, I don't really use it in the research
Okay.
stage. I'm trying to think if like of a use case in which I actually do use it a lot as a when I'm reading. Like now I'll notate in the margin. I'll put brackets around something in the text, and then beside it, I'll put like Ask GPT, because there will be
Mm.
something that I didn't understand. It's like I'm reading this book right now. It's a collection of letters by Louisa May Alcott, who's writing
Okay.
in the 1800s. So it's like
Yeah.
she's using some phrasing and some language that I'm like, there's something interesting here, but like this doesn't make sense to me. Let me ask ChatGPT, like, what does this? This is clearly a metaphor she's using. Can you help me understand it?
Yeah.
And so I'll use it like that a lot. But as far as capturing or finding material, all of that kind of happens in the reading of books.
Mm-hmm. And you don't really, I mean, one use case I could see, I guess, if all your stuff was digital, is like it could make a lot of crazy connections between
Yeah,
things. But it sounds like you like using whatever naturally connects in your brain more than the AI's what it would do.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's like my favorite like moment of
Yeah. Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
reader is just like, oh, this is just like that other thing that I read in that other book that like seemingly don't belong together. But so yeah, I wouldn't want to kind of like outsource that part of it.
Right. That's a cool frame too that like I haven't really heard of, like even if the AI can do it, it's like I derive pleasure from, like
Yes.
there's joy in that and I don't want that to be taken away from me.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or in the times that I've like tried to have AI, I'll be like, hey, I've just learned about this story of, I can't think of a specific example, but I'll be like, can you think of any other historical examples or figures with a similar story? And the
Hmm.
few times I've done it, it's always like the same handful of characters. It's like Oprah and Steve Jobs, and so it's like my I feel like that has informed my reading process to be like, well, what are books that like are not in ChatGPT's knowledge base, and I want
Mm-hmm.
to go like find those things, you know?
Mm-hmm. Totally. That's that. I feel like that's going to happen more and more, where like there'll be a premium on that which it does not readily have available. You know,
Yeah,
because we'll like want that, we'll need that more, and
yeah,
kind of crave it, which is interesting.
yeah,
I mean, I do find I was reading through your newsletter and just like loving the specific, like non-generic themes of each one. Like they're
yeah,
pretty weird, you know, in like these
yeah,
in this great way where it's like, wait, how is that going to be the theme? And then I
right,
read all of them, I'm like, oh yeah, that's really good. And I think that like that seems kind of like a superpower of yours to be able to do that. Um, yeah, it's just really good. Just to say, it's really
Well,
good.
thank you. I appreciate it. But yeah, the newsletter, it came about because when I was starting it, I was like, what do I currently do that would lend itself to a weekly newsletter? Like that I don't have to kind of change anything I'm doing, and I'm already naturally like
Mm-hmm.
gathering the material for a newsletter. And I'd been doing the note card system for 2 years up to that point, through my work with Ryan. And so I first was just like, well, I'll just scan 6 note cards from each week, and that'll be the newsletter. And I
Mm,
scanned 6 note cards, and I was just like, I don't love the way they look. Like my handwriting's a little sloppy.
mm,
And I was like, all right, I'll just transcribe them. And so the newsletter for the first year or so was just 6 disparate
interesting.
note cards that I came across in like my reading that week, or like,
Wow.
recently. And then at some point it just kind of slowly evolved into, well, I'm going to pick a theme each week, and then all the cards will be stories around that theme.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's just the newsletter, and like that, the specificity of the theme kind of being weird, and is just a function of how I'm sorting the cards, because it's like I have these 4 or 5 stories that seem to have something connected about them, and then I'll read this thing that's like perfectly articulates like what is the takeaway in these stories, and then that's like, okay, that's going to be like the thing that sets up these other pieces.
Mm. Man, yeah, that's awesome. Like I write a lot of personal essays about my life and kind of combining them with like big ideas I like or whatever.
Yeah,
And that feeling, I know what you're talking about when it like when two things connect, and it's just like holy shit, it feels like the end of a movie when you're like, "Oh my god," you know?
it's the
And
best. Yeah,
it's the best. It truly it like sometimes makes me cry almost where I'm like, "Oh
yeah,
my god, it happened. It
yeah,
finally happened." And it's just making me think like, man, if I did some of what you do with note cards, but like for my stories and stuff, I wonder
yeah,
how much more of that I could kind of help facilitate, which is cool. I've never really thought
yeah,
about doing that.
yeah, for sure. Like when you're saying you write about like personal stories, is it just a thing where it's like, okay, I want to write something. Let me just kind of like reflect on like what's been happening, and is that where you're pulling from, or is it like, do you have a notes on your iPhone? It's like you're just collecting bits and pieces as they come up, or
It's both. I try to keep track and I have Obsidian and stuff, but generally like my what gets me started is like something funny or interesting or like a story that I keep telling when I'm with other
yeah,
people. You know, just like something that naturally already kind of is flowing out. I try to lead with that, and then I'll just let it take me wherever, you know,
yeah,
and it'll always kind of take me somewhere. It just sometimes doesn't ever really bring me back. But sometimes I get back to the beginning in this kind of beautiful way, and that's like the magic. But that can't always happen,
no,
which is okay too,
yeah.
you know. Um, so what creative fears or insecurities does AI surface for you? Like, are you worried that it's going to replace you in research and that work, or do you feel like the taste discernment piece is like it can't do that?
I just, yeah, I still, and maybe it's like ignorant or naive. I feel like there's always going to need to be like a human filtering, even if AI gets really good at like generating the first draft of something, you're still going to need um, the human to do some final touches or integrating, like, it came up with this story, but actually I think this one's better. Let me, I just feel like there's always going to be,
Yeah.
I can't see a time where it's just purely AI is doing 100% of the creating.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
or maybe that would just be like a genre.
Right.
Um,
Right. 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 Totally. Because I feel like it'll be. I mean, maybe it won't, but it seems like it'd be formulaic, or it'd become like something that you expect, the same way that we expect like a superhero movie, and
yeah,
culture will always just be like, okay, but then give me something new. Like
yeah,
culture will be like, just do something different, and so it's always like a pivot from whatever that base is, and that's
yeah,
I
I
think
think
where
so.
the human will be. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I agree with you.
And I've
Um,
also I've seen like in the little bit of like every now and again I'll be over at the office. Like Ryan has a bookstore in Bastrop, Texas, and I go over
mm-hmm.
there a couple times a week.
That's
And
awesome.
he'll be like, "Hey, let's like." Sometimes he'll be like, "Let's just mess around with AI. Like, let's see."
Yeah.
And I'll be like, "Let's give it that article we published last week and ask it to give us feedback."
Mm-hmm.
And it will offer some things. And the what Ryan will think to prompt it is he'll get things out of it that like you're getting better things out of AI than I am able to because of your knowledge base and like the 20 years you've been cultivating your ability in the craft of writing. Like his what he thinks to prompt it is just like different than what I would think to do, and which is different from like what our social media manager does. And so I just feel like I've seen the levels to which people what they get out of AI, and it's a little bit like the people who can get the best out of it need it the least.
Mm.
But then somebody who's like new to writing that maybe doesn't have the knowledge or technical ability that actually AI is like technically more proficient than that person, they just don't yet have the capacity to do anything with it, you know?
Yeah,
And
totally.
so I saw this might be jumping ahead a little bit, but I saw like one of your questions was about like what is sort of not being talked about in the AI
Yeah.
conversation. And I feel
Yeah,
like it's
yeah.
like, how do you cultivate yourself as a person to like get better and better results out of these tools? Um, and
Mm,
like maybe a concern I would have is like if you're somebody who's just coming out of college and wants to pursue like a creative profession and you're going straight to these tools, you're not going to do the work to cultivate those things, whatever they are.
totally.
And so I feel like it's a not a fear, but just like it's going to be interesting to see in like 10, 20 years those people who go straight to the tools. The the slop is just going to get sloppier.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, no, I've been messing around with them a little bit with coding stuff, which I do not know how to do. But
Yeah.
like I it makes me kind of feel like I know what I'm doing, but it also like it feels like the blind leading the blind, because it's I'm like, I guess you know, but
Yeah,
it
right.
has no fucking idea either, and so it's like, here, let's go this way. I'm like, great, and then we'll go like down some weird path that like a coder would be like, what did
Yeah.
you do, why did you do that, but I don't know. And
Yeah.
so it's like, to your point of like, I'm like a beginning writer but with coding, And I don't know. I don't know what I don't know,
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Like I read a little bit about like the conversation around AI and like the software engineering
Yeah.
co- coding world, and it's like that it is good at producing code is useless to me because I have no
Exactly.
zero I have zero knowledge of the, so I can't do anything with that.
Right.
And I think it's the same with, for whatever reason, writing, because we're all like, we text and we email, we're all doing some writing where it's like it seems like it's not a skill set the way that computer science or coding clearly is.
Right.
um, but there's still a similar dynamic of like some base knowledge that you can continue to grow and expand and refine, that allows you to get more and more out of the tools, um, and doing that work, um, which AI I think can help with.
Hmm.
But if you're going straight to like, hey, can you write me a 500-word piece on this, if you're not exactly going to know how to like help the tool do that well and improve it. And so I think there's like an edge to be had of doing the kind of tedious work of expanding your knowledge base around a given
Yeah.
subject.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like still what matters most is like you got to just like really love the thing, you
Yeah.
know? Like you read a lot of books cuz you like reading books, It's
Hmm.
like that's where taste comes from ultimately, right? Like you can't like speed run taste, you
Hmm.
know? Like
Yeah.
it I don't know. Cuz you wouldn't want to do that as like somebody who enjoys it, Like I can't 2x a movie, Why would I do that, right? Like
Right.
I think it's that.
Right.
Um hmm. uh so I want to what would you say your personal AI thesis is? The core belief that drives your decisions about these tools.
Mm, not sure. What's like so that's different than like the core belief that drives how I use the tools, you're saying?
Yeah, or like just yeah, kind of how do you conceive of it? Um and if that's a weird question, we can just go to the next one. There's a lot of them, so no
Yeah. I
stress.
don't even know. I guess I don't have one, and maybe it's, yeah, I should think about what that actually is.
Yeah, or you don't, maybe that the fact that you don't have one kind of is itself a thesis of like
Yeah.
you just don't have one, you know.
Yeah.
um what advice do you think you would give people like starting out? I guess we touched on this a little bit of like, of wanting to do what you do in the research space or the writing space, um, who are worried about AI and want to use it thoughtfully, or like how would you tell people to think about it, or what advice generally would you give people? You know.
Um yeah, I think it's like what we were touching on, of like just cultivating some skill set or knowledge, or doing things that like other people aren't doing. I don't know. It's like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
what, yeah, what are the kind of fundamental qualities or traits of, in my case, being a researcher and writer? What are things that the tools can't do or they don't do well? What are things that other people are not doing? So like I feel like yes, I naturally just enjoy reading a lot, but now I'm like I think I'm actually getting a little bit of an edge because people are not doing this amount of reading,
Hmm.
and finding these stories or ideas that the tools can't generate or put in front of you. Um, the I just one of the recent newsletters I did was this paper by a sociologist named Daniel Chambliss, and he had spent I think like 10 years, maybe less, with swimmers at every level of ability. So he was
Hmm.
like he spent 4 years in the lead up to it was like the 1980 something Olympics. So he was with the Olympic team. He was going around to college teams, high school teams, local like country club swimmers, and just kind of observing what is it that like the Olympians do different. And it's basically the core his core point in that paper. He said that excellence is not a quantitative phenomenon; it's a qualitative phenomenon.
Mm.
Like at the highest level of ability, they don't necessarily just train more.
Right.
They do things differently. And he tells the story of a bunch of high school and college coaches from around the country. They were invited to just spend a week with the Olympic team, the U.S. Olympic team leading up to the Olympics, and all these college and high school coaches come in really excited. They're going to learn like the secret to what makes these guys and girls the greatest at what they do. And
Yeah.
he's like, you could just sense like slowly over the course of the week, just like the enthusiasm drain out of the room as they're like, this is it, it's like, and and the Olympic coach was like, yeah, they all come to see like the secret we have, but we don't do anything that different.
Right.
And it's just like little things like do you make your turn in practice as if it's a meet, like, and that seems small, and you can't, if you're just watching a
Hmm.
swimmer do that, you can't see that they're doing that. But like those small things over a year or 2 years or 5 years or 10 years, like you ultimately separate from people who are not doing that.
Hmm.
Um, and I just love that phrase, a qualitative phenomenon, and I think it's really applies to a lot of different domains of just like what are the things that I can do differently that will over time compound to a really significant distinction, a way for me to distinguish myself from other people,
Yeah.
and finding what those things are, and then and putting in, because it's all like the paper was called the mundanity of excellence. And so it's like
Mm.
it's always mundane, boring,
Yeah.
sort of tedious things that, because they are that, a lot of people either ignore them or they underestimate them. But I do think in most professions, the people who are really excellent at what they do are just, they're not doing anything crazy different. It's just like a focus on those mundane, tedious. And for me,
Yeah.
it's like it is the books and reading and the pain of transferring that material onto note cards. Because like the number of times I'm engaging with a story before I write about it, it's like I'm stress testing, is this thing
Hmm.
actually interesting? And that I ultimately get to a place where I'm publishing it. It's like this is my 20th time reading this story, and I still get like excited about it. So I
Hmm.
think other people will too.
Hmm. Hmm. That's really cool. I mean, what something I kind of notice in you across kind of everything that you've been saying is like there's a like your pace is like a lot, like you're not, like the internet is like has a very fast pace, and it seems like you're very like just slower, like even the
Yeah.
way that you talk a little bit slower, and like the way that it sounds like you work and compile, and there's just the real like, I don't know, there's like a, you put time in literally, and
Yeah.
it feels like AI collapses time, you know, and
Yeah.
it promises like, no, you don't need to spend any time, zero time.
Yeah.
Like here, it's right here for you. Don't you
Yep.
know? And I think there's a lot of power and value and edge, as you say, to going slow.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just reading this. Have you seen this book before? The Make Something Wonderful, Steve Jobs in his
Yeah,
own words.
I've seen that. I haven't read it, but I know that cover. Yeah.
Um, Let me see if I can find it. He was talking in like the early 80s. Yeah, here it is, 1983. And he's talking about computers, but I noted like I do this thing in the margin where it's like um lesser than sign, equal sign, greater than sign, and it's like this reminds me of this. So I did that symbol and just AI. And um he says, let's say I could move 100 times faster than anyone in here. In the blink of your eye, I could run out there, grab a bouquet of fresh spring flowers, run back in here and snap my fingers. You would all think I was a magician, and yet I would basically be doing a series of really simple instructions: running out there, grabbing some flowers, running back, snapping my fingers. But I could just do them so fast that you would think there was something magical going on. And
Mm-hmm.
it's the exact same thing with the computer. It can do about 1 million instructions per second. And so we tend to think there's something magical going on, when in reality, it's just a series of simple instructions.
Mm.
And I felt like, and I also said, it's wild to think he wrote that in 1983 because I was like, that, I feel like is what a lot of people are attracted to about AI is like, it seems magical, but it's actually just the speed.
Yes.
Like my friends will like put a screenshot of like this email it had it right, and it's like it did it. It's like that email is like you could do it the same way or better, but that it did it in 2 seconds is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But like whatever, it's just an email. And so since reading, I'm like, is it just the speed that a lot of people are attracted to, um,
Mm-hmm.
or is it actually doing something interesting, or is what it's producing interesting, or is it just that it did it so fast?
Right. Right. I think for me, when I use it, what I want a lot is speed.
Yeah.
I want a shortcut. Like
Yeah. Right.
I don't want to do the work. You know, I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't, because I feel like I've spent my whole life trying to like come up with shortcuts. You know,
Yeah.
um, was I feel like it was in something you wrote about the like the thing about below the neck or whatever. That was you, right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. It's that. It's like, you know, rather than just doing the thing, I'll spend like hours trying to create a weird little system that does it for me, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like, just do the thing, dude. You know, and I AI is just an accelerant of that desire in me, where I'm like, oh, I bet if I write a script and then that script does this like crazy thing, I'll like save 2 seconds, you know,
Yeah.
and I'll spend
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
6 hours on it, you know,
Right.
and um, yeah, yeah, we're just like designed to want to not spend mental brain energy, whatever. Um, I feel like
Yeah.
AI is just
I
that.
literally I have that note card right here, neck down.
Neck down. That's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Neck down.
It was the
That's
comedian Matt McCusker he was talking about when he was coming up in comedy. He
yes.
worked a bunch of like blue collar jobs, and one of those he was working in a warehouse. And
Yes.
his boss said to him, "Look, man, I just need you from the neck down today.
Neck down.
I don't want to hear any ideas. Pick the box up there and move it there to there. I don't want to hear how we could maybe be doing it better and saving time." And so I found like, yeah, when I catch myself spending a lot of time like hoping AI can make this tedious task faster. And like inevitably it just is a delay for me having to go actually just sit down and do it.
Yeah.
And so I just keep like when I'm doing those neck down tasks, I just like put that where I can see it and just like don't overthink like, is this what I want to be doing? Do I enjoy doing this? Like for the next 2 hours, just go neck down on this.
Yeah, neck down. Yeah. Then that works. That helps you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think it is just that like that inner conversation of like, you know, do I enjoy doing this? Is this what I'm really passionate about or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And it's like, it's okay for me to have 2 hours of doing something I don't necessarily want to do. Um, and then often it's like, sit down and do that thing. And I'm like, I'm glad I had done that.
Right. Wait, hold on.
Or
Sorry, one
I'll,
second. Wait, I lost you for a second. Okay, I got you again. Say that last part again.
okay. It's just like usually at the end of those sort of neck down tasks, it's like more often than not, I'm glad I did it. But then also I've just had the experience enough times where it's like in the process of this thing I didn't think I wanted to do, you know, I'm hunting down some story that Ryan's trying to track down, and I know it's going to take a long time to go through all the source material to find it. And in that process, like I stumble on something that I didn't know I was looking for, but it's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
this is perfect for this thing I'm working on.
Right. Right. Right.
And
Right.
I'm just trying to like sort of suspend like judgment of like, is this task worth my time or not? Because I just don't actually know
Right.
what's going to come of it.
Right. Right. You're allowing yourself to kind of be surprised.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Cool, man. That's awesome. It's very inspiring. All of the way that you work, I feel inspired.
Yeah. Cool.
Um, okay, so do you want to jump into like the recipe part, or the like to kind of share screen if you'd like, and just kind of talk me through any ways that you do use it that seem really helpful and good.
Yeah. So this is an example of I mentioned it before where I'm reading something and there's like a phrase or a metaphor that's used that I don't quite understand. Um, so I was reading this the journals of Andre Gide, who was
Mm-hmm.
a French novelist, and he wrote Kant's dove, which thought it could fly better without the air to trouble its wings, did not realize that in order to fly, it had to have the air's resistance to support its wings.
Hmm.
Um, so I was just like, can you tell me more about what he means by Kant's dove?
Right.
Um,
Right.
because he's writing at a time where I guess like that reference didn't need explanation.
Right.
Um, and so then ChatGPT gives me like, oh, it comes from the Critique of Pure Reason, and then so I get
Mm.
that book and I find um, the exact passage where Kant writes about the dove, and then I actually did um, a newsletter on it.
Mm.
So it said in the introduction to Critique of Pure Reason, Immanuel Kant writes about the seductive illusion of complete freedom, a life with no bounds, where you can do whatever you want, whenever you want. He compares the longing for unbounded autonomy to a dove cutting through the air, the resistance of which it feels, imagining that it could do even better in airless space.
Mm.
And so I was like, really, what I wanted to get to here was the Andre Gide part, but I was like, I had to ask ChatGPT about the dove, so I need to quickly set up the context of the dove, um,
Right.
reflecting on a similar illusion that artists need to be totally free of restrictions and limitations. The 20th century novelist Andre Gide wrote, "Art is always the result of constraint. To
Mm-hmm.
believe that it rises higher as it becomes freer is to believe that what keeps a kite from rising is its string.
Mm.
Kant's, Kant's dove, which thought it could fly better without the air to trouble its wings, did not realize that in order to fly, it had to have the air's resistance to support its wings.
Mm.
Likewise, art must be supported by resistance in order to rise." And then
Whoa.
it said some ways in which resistance, limitations, constraints, and restrictions are supportive. That's the theme of this newsletter. Um,
I love that. I mean
and so yeah,
that's like that perfectly, like, I feel like it encapsulates our whole discussion around AI stuff, right? Is that like AI is almost like an environment without air. There's no like there's no resistance, right? Like it's like everything is just like there's no it's smooth. There's nothing
Yeah.
stopping you.
Yeah.
So like you can't make art without that, you know?
Right. 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 Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's a good it's illustrative of like how I have gotten value out of AI. Like in the past, if I had read that Geed thing where he mentions Kant's dove, I probably just would have like, well, I don't know what that is, and I don't even know
Mm-hmm.
like in that case, I bet you could Google it and find it, but there are instances where it's like I wouldn't even know what to Google
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
try to get an explanation on what this is. So I have found AI to be really helpful at doing those sorts of things.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a really
this
good
is an
example.
this is one a similar use case where I said this is a quote from Little Women, the novel by Louisa May Alcott.
Yeah.
Um, The busy mind has no time to think of sorrow or care or gloom, and anxious thoughts may be swept away as we bravely wield a broom. I am glad a task to me is given to labor at day by day, for it brings me health and strength and hope. And I cheerfully learn to say, Head, you may think, heart, you may feel, but hand, you shall work away.
Mm.
And I was like struck by that hand, head, heart distinction.
Yeah.
And I was just like, let me throw this in and just I was like, what are some examples or like real life situations where um, this framework or like these three different types of work show up, um,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just kind of I haven't even really used this in any way, but I was just kind of like going back and forth on what are some head jobs. So it's like what's sort of like strategic, forward thinking type tasks. Um, okay, great. I want to keep exploring this from different angles. Let's say that hand jobs are tasks and activities you don't necessarily like doing, manual and menial things. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was interesting, and was just going back and forth on that.
Yeah. It's almost like you found like a cool framework model, whatever, and we're like, hey, help me develop this, like help
Yeah,
me give some depth to this thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Or another way I'll use it frequently. Ryan does this a lot, where he'll kind of set up a point. So like, let's say he's writing a Daily Stoic
Mm-hmm.
newsletter, and he's like, it's not about what happens, it's about how you respond to what happens. And
Mm-hmm.
then after he says that, he'll do a few examples of like when you're sitting in traffic, when your flight gets delayed, when you're in a long line at the DMV.
Mm-hmm.
um, and when he's drafting it, he'll if he can't immediately think of examples, he'll put insert, and then I'll come in and give him options for what those inserts could be. And
Mm.
now I'll just go to ChatGPT and I'll be like, hey, what are like common, everyday, relatable situations where people meet circumstances that are like not what they would have chosen? For
Yeah.
example, your flight gets delayed. Can you give me
Mm-hmm.
a bulleted list of those sorts of things?
Mm-hmm.
And then it will just, quickly give me 20 of them. And I'll just like, that one's pretty good. That one's good. Um, and I do, and this is kind of similar to that of like, I could probably sit down for a couple hours and think through like hand, heart, and head. I could think through that model, but it's like this can generate it quicker. And then it will spark something for me. It's like, all right, let's focus on this. You used the word strategic. Like, what are strategic professions, or what are tasks that are forward looking? Um,
Yeah.
and just that kind of back and forth, I really like to do.
Yeah. I really that's not underwhelming at all. This is like a really cool
Oh,
way to
cool.
use it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cuz it I know what you mean. It seems like basic or whatever, like it's just kind of back and forth, but I think
Yeah.
there is something like elevated or advanced about just yeah, how you're kind of collaborating with it that I
Yeah.
haven't seen a lot of it and that I don't
Yeah.
really do. Like I definitely could do a lot more of the like, hey, I just read this in a book, help me with it. You know,
Yeah.
I don't even think that I can do that. I think that's
Right.
what a lot of these use cases are about is like most people just don't even know that you can do these things.
Yeah.
Um, you know.
Yeah.
Sweet.
There's
Yeah, if you got any more, definitely take them, and then we can jump into the speed round. Just some quick.
this is kind of relevant because it's, we're it's I was reading this article. OpenAI admits newer models hallucinate even more.
Mm,
And in the piece, there's a line that says, everything that LLMs say, true or false, comes from the same process of statistically reconstructing what words are likely in some contexts.
mm-hmm.
And I was like, it occurred to me, I don't even, if you're like, what is statistics? I couldn't like articulate that, So I was just
Totally.
like, can you help me like very simply understand statistics
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to understand what that even means, that LLMs are like a statistically driven process.
Right. Right.
So it's
Right.
just
Right.
kind of walking me through that, and I'm like, and it was all in that context of LLMs, and I was like, let's go outside that context, like just very
Mm.
simply, what is statistics?
Yeah. Yeah.
To help us make sense of data, understand patterns, and make predictions. And it gives me a bunch of stuff, and then I'm like, what are real world examples that use statistics, public health, business and marketing, politics? And then there is one, yeah, weather and climate. I was like, okay, weather forecasting, that's interesting. Can you break down how weather
Mm.
forecasting works? Um, and it's like, it's constantly collecting like what the weather was today, and there's a 70% chance of rain tomorrow because like the last 100 times the weather and the atmosphere and the pressure, whatever, all those things were like this, it rained 70 of those 100 times.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so
Yeah.
I
This
was
is.
just like, just wanting to understand like what that line meant. And now it's been helpful to think of like, that's a version of what ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity and all these tools are doing, is just like collecting tons of data and then making predictions. So I think it was somewhere up here. It was like, if LLM sees the line, the cat sat on the, and
Right.
then it's guessing like what's the word it's looking for, and it's like there's a 70% chance mat is coming next,
Mm-hmm.
20%
Mm-hmm.
chance couch is coming next. Um, but and then I think I asked it like, where does weather forecasting go wrong?
Mm.
Um,
But that's so
so
cool, right? Because like now you've gone from like understanding LLM statistics to like this totally other use case,
yeah,
and now you can kind of compare and contrast them, and I don't know, that's awesome. That's really
yeah,
cool.
yeah, I like it. And like I said, it's like, if before these tools I saw that line and didn't understand it, I would just like maybe think for a second, how could I go about understanding what that line means, and would probably just be like, there seems to me no easy way to do it, and just get on with like the next thing, and
Yeah.
just that would be that. um so I like that it's kind of can be like a tutor, um
Yeah.
kind of like knowledge partner. um
Totally. It feels like, I mean, there's two things that I noticed there of like, one, there's no embarrassment about asking things. Like there are
Yeah.
certain things where it's like, oh, I might feel embarrassed to be like, I don't know what statistics are, but it's like, who cares with the, you know? And I
Yeah, yeah,
think
yeah.
like being like intellectually, like humility basically of like, I don't know this basic thing. And like, if I don't
Yeah.
admit that, I'm not going to ever find out. And it sounds like that it's a lot easier to do that with an AI.
Yeah,
Um,
because AI is not gonna be like,
it's not
"You
going to
don't
be
know what
like you
statistics
idiot.
is?"
What are you, a
Yeah, yeah.
moron? Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, "Well, I
um,
know things you don't know,
yeah.
pal."
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then the other thing that I'm seeing you do that I want to do more of is like you keep drilling deeper. Like I
Yeah.
generally will ask it something and then it's like that's it. But you're like, oh well, then let's go deep. Let's like go deeper on that thing, and then deeper.
Mhm.
It seems like you go way several levels deeper in
Yeah.
this way that is really just kind of following your curiosity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Um, okay, cool. Do you want to do if you unless you have any others to share, but
Um,
otherwise we can do the speed round here.
I use it for, like, transcribing stuff a lot, like, I just want this quote and, or another I don't know if Words and Garden Joke, I don't remember what
I
that
saw
is.
that one. I was curious what that meant.
Oh, this was I use this,
That was
actually.
in a newsletter, right? I think I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
um, yeah, I think I was, like, just trying to confirm, like, where this came from. Um,
Wait, will you go back to that one? Oh no, sorry. Go ahead.
no, it's just I forgot I did. I'm reading a biography about I think you say Goethe, is it?
Wow,
And it
I
mentions
would
the
not have
Gretchen
said that.
affair. Do you know what that? Do you know about that? Um,
If you go back to that part where you had the like stuff in caps. Oh yeah, can you make this better? That where
yeah,
you say the other guy walked by something about stopping and admiring the garden. So you're basically like saying fill that part in, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's
that's
like
cool.
I, I, I'm struggling with this sentence. Um, can you give me some words or phrasings to finish it? Um, or I use it a lot, like when I'm editing a piece. So like when
Yeah.
I'll do the newsletter, I'll write it and then I'll read through it, and then, like if a sentence just like seems clunky or like for whatever reason as I'm reading it, like the rhythm breaks or something,
Mm-hmm.
I'll just throw that in and be like, can you give me 20 variations of this sentence?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and usually there, I found there's usually not one that's like this one entirely is perfect, but it's like, oh, I like this word used here, this phrase here, and then I'll
Yeah.
like kind of put the sentence together myself. But it's, um, I like doing that to like, I know there's other wording and phrasing to use here. And again, it's like I could probably sit here for a long time and figure out what that is. But um, that is a case where it's like the speed of getting a ton of options is helpful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know what you mean about the word like the rhythm of it. I feel like the
Yeah.
me often with like it's like the musical where I can hear the words and be like, yeah, something's off. And then it won't GPT won't get it right, but it will like I don't know, help me go down a new path.
Yeah.
Droopy lidded.
This is another just like reading something that I didn't understand what the phrase was. And
Oh, Adam Mastriana. He's a friend of mine. I love his
is
yeah.
he?
Yeah.
I love his stuff so much.
Yeah.
This is from his piece. I think it's like "Admit It, You're a Crazy Person."
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, and he this like break. People have this vague idyllic fantasy of wanting to run a coffee store, and he's like,
Yes. I think about this all the time. This,
"Where would you
yeah.
get the beans?
Hmm.
Would you make the blueberry muffins in house or from a third party? What would you do on a day where like an employee calls you at 5:30 and they can't come in because they have diarrhea?" And he's like, "The point of the coffee bean procedure is that if you can't answer those questions, like you probably won't like being the owner of a little coffee shop because you won't be sitting droopy lidded in an easy chair, sipping a latte and greeting your regulars." And I was just like, "Oh, that's an interesting. What is that phrase?" Yeah,
That's
Adams.
awesome.
I think he's so brilliant.
Yeah,
His ability to just like he reminds me of like a stand up comedy or a
totally.
stand up comic. Like his ability to just like see these things that like once you read it, you're like, I know so many people who have had
Hmm.
this problem, and the way he breaks it down. Um, yeah, I love his stuff.
He does a lot of the one of the things that he and I bonded over was he does a lot of improv comedy, and I
Oh, does
used to,
he?
where he used to do a ton. I think he still might do a little bit, but I also used to do a ton of improv, and so we bonded a lot about that. Um, but yeah, he's like an internet friend. Like we met through Substack.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah, yeah, but he's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good like
That's a lot. Yeah,
look at what I'm mostly using it for.
cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have one question that made me think of, and then we'll do the speed round. And this
Okay.
question is definitely me projecting my own fears, but I'm curious how you think about it. Which is, do you ever feel like you're cheating using it? That's
Um.
that's one of my biggest hangups. Is I'll be like I'll be editing or something, and I'll be like, uh, you know, give me like a new way to say it, and it'll be really good, and I'll be like, oh, I feel like I'm cheating.
Yeah.
Do you
I
ever
don't know
feel
because
that?
it's like no, I don't. I think I was sort of thinking it when the um the example of that head heart hand, like if in the future I do write about that or something, and it's like I if I use some of the examples that ChatGPT helped me like generate or decide on, it's like, but it couldn't have without me finding this passage and asking about it and this back and forth and like asking it for specific examples. It wouldn't have just like or if you read that passage, maybe the things you would have asked for would have been different. So it's like the sentence you're helping it edit, it's like that's yours, it's like I'm not taking that sentence to ChatGPT,
Right.
and I just feel like there's um and then also if you sent that sentence to ChatGPT and it's like, can you help me make this better? And you're like, separately, you asked me to do it, and then I sent you the sentence I thought was best, and and then you separately picked your favorite. They'd probably be different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's still like your taste
Right.
and discernment to come back to that
Right.
of ultimately
Right. Right.
deciding. But if it's like if I was just, can you write me 1,000 word piece, and I made no corrections to it and just posted, I'd kind of probably feel like
Mm-hmm.
a little weird about that. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The reason I bring it up is this kind of happened to me where I wrote an essay. I had Claude or something help me with the edit, and we did a ton of back and forth, and I ended up using a line that Claude had written. Um, and then in the comments to that piece on Substack, somebody was like, "I love that line,"
yeah,
and it was that specifically that was like, "Oh God, like, is that bad? Did I do something like? Have I
Yeah, but
lied to
again, I
this
don't think.
person?
Yeah, but I think it's still like you. It was you somehow were able to get it to generate it, and you made the selection. It's
Right.
like you were, it's like the Andre Agassi used a ghostwriter for his book Open, but like, and it's one of my favorite books. I don't think like, well, I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
like it's okay to have somebody
It's
a
okay to have
a
help.
collaborative partner,
Yeah.
or if a screenwriter is given the credit for a script, I'm sure he had other people contribute, and there's lines in there that um, he overheard someone say. It's like, does that person does that
Right.
minimize or yeah, I wouldn't beat yourself up about
All right. Now I feel better.
it.
Okay, cool. Let's do the speed round. So these are just a few final questions. Feel like answer can be super quick, just a few words or a sentence or whatever. So the first one, we kind of touched on it, but this might be easier to frame it this way. How would you describe your relationship with AI? Like, is it an assistant? Is it a partner? Somebody described it as a nurse. Like,
A
how would you?
nurse.
Yeah, because they send a lot of medical questions to it. Um, how would you
I
describe
think I
your?
like partner, like thought partner, or like yeah, it seems like the way I'm using it a lot is in a kind of like partner. It's assistant doesn't seem quite right because it's more like I'm bouncing ideas or having it help me understand things. So it's like a partner slash tutor is how I feel like how I relate to it.
Cool. What do you wish AI could do but fear it never will?
Um, I wish I could. Maybe I don't think I actually wish this, but it would be cool if it could do if like give it, if I have the PDF of a 300-page biography that I read, and if it were able to pull out all of the best stories and ideas, and for me to be absolutely certain that it didn't miss anything that I would have been struck by. I I think yeah, I don't think it will. I still feel like if I had to do that, I'd be I'd be worried that there were other gems in there that it didn't find, and I would lose sleep over that.
Yeah.
But then, as we were talking about, like I love that the act of doing that reading and finding those things. So even if it were able to do it, I don't know if I would have it do that for me.
Right. Totally. Um, so everybody's making predictions about AI. Let's make a prediction about humans. Where do you think humans will be in 10 years?
Maybe what we were talking about in terms of like how does one become a better human being to get it more out of the tools.
Right.
So there will be like more focus on that instead of like here's a course on how to become a master prompter. It'll be like here's how you become like uh, highly competent in this domain to then not have to take the master prompter course.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Right. Totally.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Like the actual knowledge. Um, What question about AI and what question about AI and creativity isn't being asked enough?
Is it actually good or is it just fast?
Yeah, I agree. I like that. And then finally, what do you wish people talked more about instead of AI?
Books, maybe?
Do you have any book? I was going to ask anyways, but do you have any book recommendations or just like recent things you've loved a lot?
um, A Swim in a Pond in the Rain
I
by
love
George
that book.
Saunders
Yeah.
is really good. Constellations and Constellations 2 by David White.
Mm.
He's a poet who also writes some nonfiction, and Constellations, the those two books are, each chapter is one word that is kind of like everyday overuse. It's similar to like the way I was using ChatGPT to be like, what actually is statistics? You know,
Mhm. Mhm.
he'll pick a word like burnout or anxiety
Mhm.
or alone, and the chapters are pretty quick, but he's got this just like his poetic eye for articulating those words. Is They're two of my favorite books that I've
That's
read
cool.
recently. Collections of letters and journals is one
Mhm.
of my favorite like subgenre of book. There's a series of them. It's like conversations with filmmakers,
Mhm.
and so there's like a book with Steven Spielberg and Catherine Bigelow. But like if I get interested in a person, the first thing I do is like, is there a collection of their letters or journal out there? Because they also just like, I'm sure you see it with, if you listen to like a person on multiple podcasts,
Mhm.
they come back to like the same few stories and ideas.
Yeah.
Um, so I love it as like a person that's always on the hunt for good stories and just hearing people tell it in their own words.
Yeah.
And then over time, like over the course of a book, it's like you quickly get a sense of like, oh, these are the four kind of core stories of this person's
Mhm.
career that they keep
Mhm.
coming back to.
Mhm.
So I guess that the general recommendation would be like, if there's a creator or an artist that's somebody whose work you love, finding like a book like that.
Mhm. Yeah. I love those too. All right, man. This was amazing. Really, this was awesome. I feel like I
Yeah, I
learned a
enjoyed it.
ton, and yeah, it was just awesome to hang and get to know you better too.
Awesome. Yeah, it was great to chat with you. Let's stay in touch.
Sounds good, man. That'd be awesome.
All right.
All
Thanks,
right.
Alex.
See ya. Bye.
See ya.